Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Movie Mates podcast. I am Matthew, once again joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, great to see you. So today we're going on another endeavor to conclude a movie franchise, and I've just seen by the title, it's the Fast and the Furious films, which we covered a couple months ago. Well, the first three, in fact, and today we're back reviewing the next three in that universe. So I'll pass over to Cam to explain what those three films are and the gist of what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, off to you, man.
I just wanted to say to you quickly, I heard a Movie Mates podcast and it just reminded me that there's another one that has now started on YouTube. So
Really? Is
I
there? We've
mean,
got
yeah,
competition. Oh,
I don't think we can exactly have this as a trademark.
yeah.
So we may need to think of some ideas. But yes, we're talking about Fast and Furious, Fast Five, and the Fast and the Furious Six, I believe. Or Fast and Furious Six, if you want to be pedantic. Two good films today, and one fine film today. I was very surprised watching mainly the first three films because I've never been so surprised that I enjoyed something. It was a massive surprise to me. They couldn't be less for me on paper,
Mhm.
but I mean, five and six especially, like I was
Absolutely.
I was thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, that this episode will really get sort of stuck in with the really sort of really good ones. Like this is where they become really just all out action, just like more girls, more action, more stunts, more everything. Like it's classic Fast and Furious, if you will. And yeah, I'm really buzzing to get into it with you because before we kind of delved into this franchise, like I couldn't really pick a movie universe that would be so opposite to what we're akin to and what we enjoy. But yeah, it goes to show you like there are surprises in there. So far I would say it's a very good universe, like to be honest. And yeah, as Callum said, it will be a full spoiler breakdowns, same as our previous podcast. So just before we begin today's episode, thank you very much everyone who supported us recently. I know Callum and I really do appreciate that loads. You can check the time codes out in the description if you want to skip to your favorite film. But we recommend you don't, just to get the full experience. And also our email and our podcast download link is there as well. So yeah, I suppose the first one, Fast and Furious, it's quite an unusual title as well for a fourth film.
Yeah,
They've
I'm
just
I'm very
opted for
glad
Fast and
that
Furious here. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm very glad that I haven't had to purchase these on DVD because I'd be
that would be a
furious, I'll be
nightmare.
honest.
Yes.
I've talked to you about, I purposely went out of my way. I had to buy the Dark Knight trilogy as a collection so that it wasn't sort of separated by Batman Begins, then the two Dark Knights in different sections of my collection. But Fast and Furious is just a nightmare,
Yeah, no, it
especially in
is.
the UK where we have the eighth film is the Fate of the Furious here. I would just be furious,
Yeah, yeah,
aptly. Uh,
absolutely. Yeah,
you
mate. So
know,
if you wanna open the floor, if you wanna open the floor with your thoughts.
I mean, as you said, I wouldn't be massively surprised if people skip around a bit because these films do kind of seem like, you see them when they're in the cinema. It doesn't really matter if you've seen the previous ones. The first one you've seen is maybe number five. Like that doesn't exactly come as a massive surprise to me. I mean, for me, my first exposure to this franchise was Hobbs and Shaw, which is the ninth film in the franchise, and I felt pretty clued into it. They're sort of removed intellectually from what the expectation of the audience is, that you can kind of just go in with any film and just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. They're very accessible films, mate, and you can see why they do incredibly well financially as well. And yeah, although these three films are very, they're serviceable, they're good films. Like I especially the fifth and sixth one, especially, I do feel like they blend together like very well, but also in a way that they kind of do seem like the same film. Just swap out this drug cartel for a different one, or this mob boss for another one, or this character for another one. It is very cut and paste. And to be fair, they've cracked under a very good formula there. They know what works at the box office. They know what's going to get bums and seats, to put it bluntly. Do you know what I mean? So I think when we watch these films, in a bunch, that sometimes does the universe a discredit because it is like watching the same film three times almost. Although they all have differences, the you know the the main sort of focal point there is the same for the most part. How did you feel about that, mate?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would say most notably it would be with this film that we're talking about now, Fast and Furious. I think it is pretty much a carbon copy of Too Fast, Too Furious. It's as
Mm.
you said, not another drug cartel. Brian's actually working, on the right side of the legal line at this point.
Yeah.
So I do think if you see these films 2 years apart, or 4 years apart in the case of Too Fast, Too Furious and Fast and Furious, I think they're each an individual fun adventure ride, but yeah, as you said, when you shotgun them back to back, they really bleed into each other, and they just seem like carbon copies. I mean, the ones that I can really sort of distinguish from the group are number 5 and number 6.
Yeah.
I say that I don't remember what happens in 6. We're going to be talking about it in a little bit. I if you asked me immediately right now, what is number 6 about? I couldn't tell you. I know number 5 is the Rio heist, and then 6 is six is the Owen Shaw one.
Owen
Okay,
Shaw,
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, if it takes me that long to remember that, and I watched these, a week or a week and a half ago,
Mhm.
it's a bit of an indictment.
Yeah, and I suppose that sort of leads me into my question to you, mate. Like, what is it about this fourth film that maybe doesn't hit the previous heights of other films in the franchise then?
I think it's that they don't really, they sort of fail to assemble this Ocean's 11 style team
Yeah.
that we sort of see in full fashion by Fast Five. We have the introduction of Giselle, but she's not really a presence, and there aren't too many women amongst the group, and Han is sort of a blink and you miss it character in this film, I believe, if he's even in
Yeah.
it from memory.
Mhm.
I would I
Very
would I would
brief. Very
struggle to
brief.
say if I'm honest.
Mhm.
And Mia is barely in it. It is essentially a Paul Walker Vin Diesel vehicle, but I'm sure plenty of people would be perfectly pleased by that. But I just think I prefer the heist style or the spy style of the future films, and I think that's a lot to do with the crew.
Absolutely, Callum. I think that these films work best when it's the whole group interacting, when everyone gets to say their piece, everyone's got a really witty line in there as well. Whereas when it's just Paul Walker and Vin Diesel, the characters are certainly developed better, but I don't think the film flows as naturally to me. And it goes to show in this film, like you say, Han is a very has a very brief role here. Gal Gadot doesn't really get to shine as Giselle as much as he does in certainly Fast and Furious 6, I would argue, and 5 to an extent as well. And yeah, I mean, I would say the villain as well, Braga. He wouldn't be my favorite in the franchise so far. And with that, the film just feels more like a duo film between Dom and Brian, rather than that whole collective group that we see is assembled in the fifth one. So I'm always sort of more akin to those kind of ensemble like Ocean's 11 style films, because like that is that franchise to me. Like the franchise is built upon those really comedic characters, but also like just the silliness and how just ludicrous, no pun intended there, everything is when it comes together. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's where it works best. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously, which I do enjoy.
Yeah, and I think there's an issue, of course, with the acting being sort of subpar in a lot of cases. So I think that there's, in a sense, like a safety in numbers. When you have
Yes.
uh, you know a group of 8, and 3 of them are bad actors, but when you have one film where the majority of the leads maybe can't carry it, you're maybe questioning it a little bit.
Yeah.
But widely, I find this cast very likable, but not likable enough to root for them, in their criminal success. There's a heist at the start of the film, where Letty and Dom are, using their group to try and take down a truck, and they're just endangering this truck driver's life. And the whole time I was just thinking, "Fuck you guys!" I sort of hoped that, by this point, that there'd be some kind of specific vendetta or a worthy cause. In Spider-Man 3, Sandman had his sick daughter. That was what led him to crime. But then, you know,
Just for gas for some cars.
Vin Diesel, can
Yeah.
like afford, whatever cars he has. He can afford to build them. And then he's, winning these cars in these drag races. But he's still, or in the Yeah, drag races.
Yeah.
He's still pursuing a life of crime just because that's all he knows and it's what he loves. But it's just not enough for me to root for.
Yeah, and I think the producers of the franchise and the filmmakers did a really good job of sort of twisting that and making them kind of anti-heroes and having them take on, criminals, like the fifth one, for example, the sixth one with Shaw. And I think that's a really smart move because when they are just like at the start of this movie with this truck heist, when they're trying to get, the gas for the cars or whatever from the big oil tanker thing, like it's crime. That's what it is. Like it's hard to root for those people. Um, and yeah, I think I do find it quite funny. Like Brian is still manages to get a job in the FBI despite, his kind
How,
of rule breaking nature as a
how did they
cop.
trust him?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's to be fair, he's got charisma. He's got that sort of American charm about him. And yeah, one thing about these films I wanted to kind of question you about was this different relationships, because obviously we've seen the sixth one between Han and Giselle that's kind of developed and developing there, and obviously the main one for me anyway, Dom and Letty is probably the big one, but for me it's always Brian and Mia I go back to.
Hmm.
Do you buy that relationship? Because I actually do quite. I think that the chemistry between Jordana Brewster and Paul Walker is still there after a couple of years not being in a film together.
Yeah, I mean they spend very little time together. But what time there is, of screen time of them together is believable. I think the especially in the first film here, the sort of reignited romance. I question a little bit. I feel
Hmm.
like the level of betrayal versus how well balanced with Brian's lack of personality or morals.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
that is sort of
definitely.
a recipe for an unsuccessful relationship. Of course we go on to see that it's fruitful.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, I think that's a good point because I don't know, it's hard to kind of put the nail on the head on what specifically doesn't work for me in this film. Like it's just sometimes like we kind of hinted this in our sort of Loki review and our previous Falcon and Winter Soldier reviews. Like with those episodes and those shows, like there's not anything specifically wrong with them. It's just there's something missing there. And I kind of feel like that's maybe the issue surrounding this film. Like it kind of feels like the most bland out of the six so far that I've seen. And it feels like the most cut and paste in terms of, you're right, it does feel like, too fast, too furious to a large degree. So I think maybe it's the lack of originality there that stems that thought for me. What about yourself, Callum?
Yeah, I think it's just the setup of the drugs for whatever reason. I have future issues with this.
Yeah, yeah.
By the time we reach the Fate of the Furious, they've done like two films about trying to take down drug cartels, and they've done like four films about we need to steal back this secret spy software or this
Mhm.
spy craft. I have a certain limit, and
Yeah.
this series was never rooted rooted in reality. It was never particularly grounded. The first one is conceivable, but it was never not outlandish really. So to have them sort of pretend to be like serious lawmen, I don't know. There's a sense of inauthenticity that maybe comes across for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck in a crossroads because I really do love and appreciate the charm the first one has, because it is so much more grounded than the later films. And I think that really does start with, the fifth one in particular. That sort of, well, actually, I would say it starts with this one, like the CGI, those kind of things. Like it really is dialed to 11 here, specifically in these three films that we're reviewing today. But at the same time, I don't know, I'm a sucker for that sort of outlandish, sort of nothing makes sense kind of, 20-mile runway in Fast and Furious 6 kind of thing. Like that, I do like that. I do find that quite funny. I think it works somehow. But I still love the charm and the cheesiness of the 2000s and the first Fast and Furious, to be honest.
Yeah, we've mentioned Brian already, of course. Being one of the leads of the film, but we've talked about previously. He let Dom go. He's incompetent. He's an asshole. But he's somehow still employed, and it's genuinely scary to me that no one within his FBI SWAT team took issue with him planting meth as evidence.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and it's kind of it's kind of a bit worrying how they just don't do anything about it. I have sort of a similar point to raise about Brian as well, with his sort of police work later on in a different film. But I mean, yeah, how he got that job in the FBI in the first place is a mystery to me. Um,
I mean, I don't even know why the FBI was, the ones responsible for investigating, uh, the truck heists, like, in the first film, because I mean, they were just stealing like DVD players. I don't really know why that was you
yeah,
know, a,
it's called
an
the
issue of
FBI.
national security.
Yeah, I know, I know. I'd be interested to know, like, at this stage, like, by the fourth film, like, are, Toretto and his gang, like, celebrities across America for their sort of exploits, or like, are they just known to the FBI? What do you think?
Well, because it seems that anytime there's any kind of world issue, they're like, who's the perfect guy that we need to get, the
Dom
best
Toretto.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best crew conceivable to pull off any kind of job, shady or otherwise. It's them. It's like, it's not like some sort of like elite black ops crew. It's Dom
Yeah.
Toretto's family.
Not the Navy SEALs, Dom Toretto's family. Like, it's bizarre. Fair play to him. I wonder if they're paying him. I don't know.
I
But yeah.
mean, you'd like to think so. I mean, I suppose one time he's allowed to get away with $100 million. The other time,
Yeah.
he's away with his
Yeah.
freedom. So I suppose he owes them a lot, I think. But
Yeah.
within this film, we have one of the worst bad guys. We'll talk about another one. Come number 7. There's also in my opinion, a weak bad guy there. Here it's Braga, and within this film, they try to pull off this misdirect, where they show from the shadows this guy in a suit, but it turns out to be the person that we thought to be his underling is actually Braga, and I was so baffled what they were trying to do, because they saw this guy in the suit, but they were matching the fingerprints, and I just had no idea what they were trying to do. And then it clicked in my mind that they were trying to pull off this misdirect with this guy secretly Braga. But I was like, surely if you're gonna go for impact, have it be Giselle.
Yeah,
I was like, if you're
definitely.
gonna have a misdirect, surely that's the one to go for.
And these films do have a thing. They always go back to having sort of like, a subversion of the villain's kind of twist in there. Obviously, we kind of see it with Gina Carano's character, Riley, in Fast and Furious 6. And I think, I don't know, like, you can always sort of bank on that being in a Fast and Furious film these days. But I mean, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there. And I'm kind of, I can't be too critical of this plot point, of, obviously, the I suppose the main thing in this film is, Letty's killed, or so we think. So we think. And obviously, when you see Fast and Furious, like, Michelle, I think it's Michelle Rodriguez is the actress's name. Like, she's so heavily in the marketing for, Fast 7, Fast 8, Fast 9, that, like, obviously she must survive this. So it's a pity that I was aware of that. But if I didn't know that, I would think that's a pretty shocking twist. Although I'm not too sure, like, what happened there. Was, like, the actress just fed up with the universe or something, was just fed up appearing in the films, or was that a genuine, like, attempt that they will, like, to suggest, like, oh yeah, we intentionally killed her off knowing that we'll bring her back in a future movie?
It's interesting because obviously in the first film, you had Paul Walker and Vin Diesel,
Hmm.
and then the rest of the cast, and then by the second one, Vin Diesel was out. By the third one, Paul Walker was out, and then by the fourth one, they're eventually reunited. So I guess there must just be like messy contract stuff behind the scenes.
And that's a really good point, actually, you've mentioned there, buddy, because I'd imagine if I was a huge Fast and Furious fan back in 2009 when this came out, when it was announced that, the original cast was returning for the fourth film, like, you probably would be overjoyed. Like, if you weren't a fan of Tokyo Drift, you thought it was a bit weird, a bit too, a bit too out there, not for me. Like, if I heard the announcement, like, when the film was coming out, that, yeah, Paul Walker, Jordana Brewster, Vin Diesel, they're all returning for this, I'd be absolutely buzzing. So I would. It's just, looking back, I just don't think it stacks up to the quality of the films that come after it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. There were a lot of negative reviews behind this, but I think it's one of the weakest of the hit films, and then Hobbs and Shaw. I'd say it's probably a little better than Too Fast, Too Furious. But a little worse than the Fate of the Furious. So for me, it'd be around the the second worst amongst the franchise.
Mm.
But the second worst amongst a really thrilling franchise. Is nothing to sneeze at. I was fully entertained. I think it's a perfectly serviceable film. I was just unmoved. But Paul Walker and Vin Diesel reunited, despite the acting, it was really great to see. Just because it was a franchise that I really fell in love with pretty instantly. So
Yeah.
I mean, I was really excited by it. Even if it's not, even if it doesn't stack up to the other films.
Yeah, and on that note, Callum, I've kind of expended all my notes on the film at this point. Have you got anything else to say?
Nothing further from me, Matthew.
Well, mate, I suppose if you were going to hop in with a rating, what would you give it out of 10?
Yeah, this is very difficult. Because of course, if you're rating it against all films, it's
Yeah,
obviously very low. Serviceable would normally put it at like a 5 or a 6. But amongst this franchise, it's a worthy enough addition. If this were a TV show, it'd be an upper mid tier TV episode. Because I mean, there's some structure to it, and you get to see Mia and Brian back together. You get to see, Dom reunited with all his family. So I mean, it is fun to see, but I do think the Braga storyline's a bit weak, and I don't love when it's you know uh a drug situation for whatever reason. That just in a sort of zany fun franchise, I do prefer the more spy stuff than I
yeah,
do going after the drug cartels, because it feels like it's trying to take itself a bit too seriously. They think they're like Narcos or something.
yeah, yeah.
Like
I get
it
that.
just doesn't really come across for me. But I really enjoyed it. I'd probably give it I'd probably give it a 6.
A 6, yeah. I think that's a very fair analysis of it, to be honest with you, Callum. I agree, to be honest with you. I think there's plenty to love here. I think if this film, like I said, if I was a fan in 2009, I'd be very happy with this film. But that's because you're not comparing it to the future ones that come after it, which are so much better. So I think as a with it, there's some twists and turns in there. Not all of them I like. I mean, we've talked about the Braga one there. I think the Letty one is very interesting as well. Like you said, I think the chemistry between it's nice to see Brian and Mia back together as well. And I think introducing Gal Gadot was a good first step in sort of introducing newer characters to freshen the universe up. So I'd probably round it out at about a 7.5 for me, mate, to be honest with you. I think it's a good one. Um, the next film,
They really need to give some opportunities to some good female actresses, though. Like,
yeah,
I mean, come on, so like, you know, Gina Rodriguez is actually, responsible for some advancements within the franchise. Where she sort of threatened to quit. If there weren't, more gender balances made. But I mean, they give the actresses such small roles, and then they're, casting, it may be an issue of they're casting certain actresses in the wrong roles, and that's why it maybe doesn't
yeah,
connect. But
yeah, definitely.
I'm not going to throw out some examples because it might be a bit insulting. But I'm sure
I know what you
so some
mean.
people can think back to some maybe questionable performances. Not necessarily in the I mean, yes, in the slate of films we're talking about today, but mostly in Fast and Furious 7. Yeah, you'll see.
I
You'll see,
see. I'll
Matthew.
find out. I'll find out. The next film is by the name of Fast Five. They've switched up the titles yet again. So they don't know what to be at there, but it welcomes back a couple of returning cast members. From Too Fast, Too Furious. Namely Ludacris and Tyrese Gibson. And introduces The Rock. Now that I think this is the main sort of turning point for me as in the franchise for me. He's playing Luke Hobbs. So I just want to gauge your overall thoughts of this film, mate. Where is it at for you? Because I think it's going to be quite a favorable review if we're going to guess from you.
Yeah, I would. This is my favorite of the entire franchise. Of all 9 films, including Hobbs and Shaw, that this is definitely the top tier for me.
Hmm.
As you said, the Rock joining was a turning point for the franchise, and he's credited with sort of resurrecting it. But I mean, do you think it's the Rock, or do you think it's the character, or do you think it's the film? Because I think if you put in, you know, Dave Batista in that role, I think that's as good a I think it's as good a film. I don't think removing Dwayne
Yeah.
Johnson detracts it.
I don't know. I just
So I
think,
think,
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you're
there's
saying.
allegedly, a lot of beef between Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson, and you think it maybe it's just two alphas butting heads, but some people think it's potentially that Vin Diesel is sort of he feels that the rug's been pulled out from under him, and all the credits going to The Rock, and I think you have to be balanced and say Vin Diesel's been there from the start, but The Rock is a significant part of the success,
Yeah.
because he is a box office draw. But do you think he made the film better?
Well, I think, mate, put it this way, I think The Rock is the best actor they could have cast for this role. I think Dave Bautista works. I think John Cena would work for this, but I think they absolutely smashed it with The Rock, which is interesting because I don't like forget. Correct me if I'm wrong, mate, but like this casting, this movie appearance, like wasn't exactly in the peak of The Rock's career. I remember a few films he'd done around this time, like the Tooth Fairy films like that. Those kind of ones, like it wasn't exactly, and that's a
Journey
bit
to Mysterious
that,
Island.
yeah, like yeah, those kind of films like that. This was probably the lowest part of, or the weakest part of The Rock's acting career in terms of like you wouldn't see The Rock do those kind of movies nowadays. The Rock is in big, highly budgeted, big production, big studio films. Like that is his wheelhouse, and credit to him, like he's got himself there from the bottom. And I really do like, I really really like The Rock. I think he's a really likable actor, on and off screen. But I do think you can have Dave Bautista in there and it works. I'm not sure if it works just as well, but I definitely do think it works. But put it this way, like with The Rock being introduced in this film, like I do feel bad for Vin Diesel, but I wouldn't say like this is The Rock's film by any stretch of the imagination. Like I would say Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto and Brian O'Connor are definitely the main characters here. It gives off that kind of, catch me if you can type vibe here, where it's it's quite similar to like The Fugitive in a sense. It's very different from The Fugitive, but in ways it's very similar. You've got
Yeah,
this, trying to catch these guys on the run across the states. Like it's got that energy to it, and I think it's so different, but it works tremendously.
yeah, and screen time wise, it's still like 65-35.
Yeah,
To
exactly. Yeah,
the different opposing sides. But yeah, I definitely agree. The Rock is great in it. But I don't. I think maybe the credit, shouldn't necessarily go to him, because I
yeah,
mean, he should
agreed,
be lucky to be cast in a good film.
agreed.
Because I mean, the film is good regardless. I think he's great in it. But I think a lot of people could be great in it. Even if he's the best they could have got.
Mhm.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely, hundred
He
percent.
should still feel like I don't think the franchise should feel like lucky to have him, or
Mhm.
at least for this film. I think the fact he's still stuck around despite probably numerous opportunities, I think's
Yeah,
admirable. But
yeah,
at this point in time, I don't I think saying he saved the franchise is a bit
bit of a
unfair to
stretch.
the other people putting in a lot of hard work.
Yeah, a million percent, mate.
So the end of the last film was Dominic Toretto being sentenced to 25 years in prison, and then we saw, the Brian and Mia were trying to break him out, and they just cut the black immediately as that breakout starts. I was very thankful that they picked up where they left off,
Yes.
because I really didn't like their chances, if I'm honest. Well, once again, I don't find their actions cute. Seeing as they're endangering the drivers and guards. But I was glad we at least got to see that stunt, because I thought they were just going to say, "Yeah, we got away with it." Because I really did not fancy their chances, like three cars against a giant prison transit.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm glad, I love how the film picks up right where the last one ended. I think that's a really, really smart move. And from that whole scene, it really did remind me of something out of like Mad Max or something like that. It's got that sort of that desert surrounding. And I really got to credit these films, especially these three middle ones in particular, about like their varying sort of settings. We've got London and Fast and Furious 6. We've got kind of a lot of different settings here, Rio de Janeiro, those kind of things. Sorry, I think Rio de Janeiro is actually the fourth one. My mistake. But yeah, you've got a lot of
No,
different.
Rio was
Is
this one.
it? Is it? It is this one, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, you've got a lot of different sort of
Yeah,
lot of different surroundings there, and it just helps freshen the overall action up. I think a lot of these could just be like cut and paste sort of street races across various cities, but I think it really does credit to them. I think it works well. I think it does.
Yeah, and I think a really fresh original thing that they brought into this was the manhunting aspect with Hobbs. And as you said, I definitely agree with your comparison with The Fugitive. I think it gave a lot more direction than the previous ones, where the missions of the characters felt so impersonal. But here, they're uh, running away, and they have the emotional they have the emotional side of knowing that Mia is pregnant. So, they're
Yeah.
sort of doing this for her in a sense.
Hmm.
So I think it gave it a lot of direction rather than in the first film where they're just they're just stealing DVD players so they can
Yeah.
make money. Why do they need money? They have a house. I don't know.
Yeah.
But here you're like they need the money because of their freedom. And I think I really was able to sympathize with them more. Even though they're on the run because they're violent criminals. Let's not sugarcoat it. But I at least respected that there was more vision.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see, like you said, actually, buddy. They've got that emotional pull of Brian will have to provide for a family now. Like they need freedom. Like they want to kind of leave this life behind them. Um, even though if actions, later on in other films contradict that, like they do want to kind of put that behind them and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, I think this film is when the group really becomes assembled for me, together for the first time, really, and everyone really gels together very well. It's a very diverse cast, but I think overall, like it's a fantastic group of actors. They're varying talents. Don't get me wrong. Like I think there's definitely better actors than others there, but I think overall they do click. They do that. But there are certain times where like it certainly feels like you can tell that you can tell the script isn't maybe at that level because like they all have to say a specific line in the scene. Like it's either like a scene ending line by Roman Pierce or something else like that. So I do think maybe the script writing isn't on par with like the caliber of actors maybe, but I don't know. I do think the group clicks together nicely.
Yeah, Roman deserves better than just the all the sexual harassment.
Yeah, he does.
I'd like to see him maybe grow as a person in number 9 or 10. I don't actually know. I don't actually know if he's in number 9, but I'd like to see maybe a bit more depth.
Definitely, yeah.
Maybe uh redeem himself a bit.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, and within this film, there's a lot of questions about the level of violence that the group causes. In the beginning heist where they're trying to steal the cars from the train. The separatist group amongst them, kills 3 DEA agents, and that's directly what they're being manhunted for.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the crimes that they performed in previous films. This was sort of the domino effect event. Where that's specifically why they're hunting them. At least to bring in Luke Hobbs.
Mhm.
And they seem so high and mighty about the fact that they didn't kill the 3 DEA agents. But I mean, they're definitely like they're responsible or accessories to at least 7 murders in the first 20 minutes.
Million
And then,
percent.
in the
Millions in
last act,
damages.
they killed
Millions in
like two
damages.
dozen police officers.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and like I think, yeah, it is. It's a funny one because like they kind of play it out as if like it's all the corrupt cops that are after them, but like there's bound to be some cops in there that are just trying to do their jobs and just are unaware of the situation. Like there's no way all those cops that are after them are corrupt ones. I don't think.
And
But
even still, like, they're they are protecting a criminal's money, but they are still trying to stop another crime from happening.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
they are there.
yeah,
They are placed in that, like, they're they, as you said, they're corrupt cops. They're taking money from this other bad guy, but they're taking money to protect his money.
yeah.
So they are
Stealing from
still
a criminal.
preventing the crime of theft.
Yeah,
So I
stealing from a
mean, I
criminal is
don't know
still
whether
theft,
they
isn't
deserve to be like steamrolled,
it?
but whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Family in it.
Yeah, that's it. One thing I wanted to ask you with this film, buddy, with that kind of fugitive aspect to it and the dynamic between sort of Catch Me If You Can, those kind of things. Did it kind of get you rooting for Dom Toretto and Brian, or did it kind of get you rooting for Hobbs?
Oh, see, this is where it gets difficult because, here they steal money because they have a motive. That was sort of my issue before. Here even though they don't deserve their freedom, that's what they're fighting for, and I felt that a bit more here. So I was rooting for them. I liked seeing Hobbs. I wanted more screen time with Hobbs, more time spent. He was a little aggressive in this one. I think he kind of brings down his persona in future films, becomes a bit more likable.
Mhm.
But here, yeah, I didn't want them to be captured. I was rooting for them to get away with the money. I mean, Hobbs and his team commit war crimes in this, I'm sure.
Million
They're
percent.
just like
Million
gunning down
percent.
on unarmed people. They're killing all these corrupt cops. Like, I mean, whenever they just like gun down all those people in the favela, like in the first act, like they were not firing at you. Like you can't shoot them because they're holding a gun. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
at least to my knowledge, I don't think that's a permissible action. I'm pretty sure there needs to be some kind of resistance of arrest, but okay,
Yeah.
that's what
Family
happens.
in
But yeah, I think
it.
you know everyone's gray in these films. I think the law people are always a bit on the gray side, and then the criminals are you know they're not as violent as the law people, but they do steal. So I mean, there's a lot of balancing to be done, but here I sided more with Dom's crew.
Yeah, and put it this way, I'm glad this movie kills off Vince, to be honest with you, because I really could not stand his character
I
in the
thought he
first film.
died in the first
So
one.
did I. I don't remember like ever sort of making it out of there, to be honest. But yeah, they finally kill him off here, which is fantastic. And they kind of subvert a death with someone surviving, as it's kind of revealed at the end of this film. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It is no, it's in a post credit scene, I think. That Letty is actually alive. She's been photographed in the flesh. And I suppose like
Is it?
yeah, 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 at the end of
There's an
this,
end credit scene in this.
yeah, yeah, and I just
I had no idea.
it's a bit bizarre, isn't it? That like they wait to reveal that for a total of like just one film. They don't even wait like a film in between. Like they kill her off in the Fast and Furious 4 and then reveal she's alive in the next film. Like it's not really. I get that there's basically a full film in there, given that this is that reveals at the end of this one, but. I don't know. I think that would have been maybe suited to a reveal in like Fast and Furious 7 or something like somewhere later on in the picture.
Yeah, because now you're just like, oh well, why did I even watch the Fast and the or why did I even
Yeah.
watch Fast and Furious? Because that whole movie's kind of redundant. The whole emotional arc for Dom is just redundant. He didn't need to kill the guy because he wasn't actually responsible for killing Letty.
Mhm.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
it's I mean, I suppose in a way it's kind of like Spider-Man beating up the thug that he thought killed Uncle Ben. It's it's kind of that motivation. I
Yeah.
suppose you don't find the first film redundant because of the third one. So maybe I'm a bit wrong there, but yeah, what they could have left it as a bit of a slow burn, or you know get over it so quickly like reveal it by the end of the fourth one. But yeah, maybe they were having
Yeah, potentially.
contractual disagreements with Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah.
For me, this was pretty much my dream action film. It was a heist and a manhunt, and for me, I think it's the first actually good one. Not just entertaining, but actual quality of cinema. Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably up until this point, I think it's the best one out of the five, and then I actually think Fast and Furious 6 improves on it. For
Mm.
me, I think it really, I think it smashes it with like it actually is a very good blend of, like you said, it's that manhunt and the all out sort of espionage action film. So it does it really well. And credit to this franchise, like they managed to sort of mix genres very well. I mean, Hobbs and Shaw is pretty much a sci-fi flick because you've got that whole sort of Idris Elba's character is kind of like superhuman and stuff like that. So it's a bit bizarre, but yeah, um, really big fan of this film, to be honest with you, mate. And I don't have any more notes to say in it. My notes are brief for it, but like I think it's a testament to how good it is because like usually with these kind of films you would have notes about like cringy moments or something, but there's very few here. I think it works. Anything from yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there was the moment, where Hobbs is addressing the police, when he arrives on his
Mm-hmm.
plane, and he's, giving directions to this guy, hops in his car and just says, "Oh, one last thing, stay the fuck out of my way."
Yeah,
It was a bit, it was a
yeah.
bit, it was a bit Cyclops in Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, it's a classic Cyclops line. Yeah, no, for sure. There is those kind of lines in there, isn't there? But yeah, any more remarks from yourself, mate?
Nothing else from me, Matthew.
Well, buddy, if you're gonna give it a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
So I do think, having seen all of them by this point, including Hobbs and Shaw, I do think this is the strongest one out of all nine. I did say to you the other day, I rewatched Hobbs and Shaw, and
Yeah, he does.
it's
Yeah.
in my opinion not the film that I remember it to be, which
Oh
is
no.
upsetting.
Yeah.
It may just be that I expected so little from it, then was hugely surprised, and then after seeing potentially slightly better Fast and Furious films, I was a bit let down. Maybe I think it's that's probably unfair on that film. I'll probably rewatch it, but before the sequel comes out, in however many years.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, the Fast and Furious films usually take very short breaks in between films, so I'm sort of surprised Hobbs and Shaw hasn't been fast tracked.
Yeah.
I would expect it next year based on the normal trajectory of the films. But for this film, as I said, my kind of ideal action film, it's a heist and it's a manhunt. So I really loved it. I think it's the strongest one out of all nine. So I would give it probably a 9 out of 10.
9 out
Like
of
I
10.
can't say it's one of the greatest films of all time. It does feel pretty tailored to me. Action isn't necessarily my favorite genre. But, if I'm gonna rate other films in the action genre, I think this is pretty top tier. So I'd give it a 9.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to you. Fair play. It's a very fantastic sort of action film in regards to films in that genre. I think it works. I think there's really, really, sort of stellar sort of action set pieces here as well. I think I'd be hesitant to see the budgets for these films because I'd imagine they're super crazy expensive, like. But yeah, I think they do really do a smart thing and really starting to assemble a group together for the first time properly. Ludacris, Tyrese Gibson, Giselle. Sorry, Gal Gadot was Giselle. It really sort of it hones its craft here. You know what I mean? It's understanding what it needs to evolve, and by having The Rock appear and become sort of a main character is a masterstroke, to be honest with you, in terms of helping revitalize the franchise. So it's an 8 out of 10 for me, mate. It's a very, very strong film, very, very much so. Um, a film which I actually prefer to this one, believe it or not, and this was the only Fast and Furious film I had seen before we had viewed Hobbs and Shaw about a year and a half ago. Fast and Furious 6. Um, and yeah, I mean this film for me it improves upon mostly everything that the previous one did. It is quite a similar one, but it differs, I suppose, in the fact that it is more of a heroes against the villain kind of guy and the villain's crew. And what are your overall thoughts on this one, man?
I was quite entertained. I think it's probably my second favorite of the whole franchise. And I really appreciated, based on the fact that at the end of the last one, they get rich. They each get their $10 million. I really appreciated that they sort of managed to organically create a reason to keep the characters active despite the lack of financial
Yeah,
incentive.
absolutely.
Here they're going after Letty and their freedom. So although the kind of amnesiac character is a bit of a cliche, it's a bit of a trite way to bring back a previously thought dead character, which I'm sure they're going to be continuing with the character that's returning in Fast Nine. You know, but I really appreciated how they managed to do that with like me rolling my eyes at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think this film it's bizarrely similar in my opinion to Hobbs and Shaw in the fact that I actually think the villain here is remarkably similar to Idris Elba's character in there. I don't know, I just got that kind of vibe. And yeah, I think maybe it's like the English accent or something. I don't know. Or like the having the action take place in London potentially. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think this film it was, as I said, the first Fast and Furious film I had saw, and when I first saw it, like years ago when it came out, I did enjoy it. It's weird because it's got those sort of cringy scenes as all the Fast and Furious films do, but I think, like I said, with the whole group being ensembled, it really hones in on what it wants to be. It becomes that sort of lovable rogue sort of team where everyone's got their sort of witty line to say, and they're all sort of flawed but lovable and charming characters. Despite how many sexual innuendos Roman Pierce makes, but that being said, one thing about these films I really like is the Han and Giselle romance, which it broke me when she died in this film because I think Gal Gadot's fantastic here. You
I
know,
mean, that pissed me off a little. Like, you know, Letty got shot at, her car exploded and she survived. A certain character that I don't know if people know are returning in, F9, is coming back despite, the appearance of death. She just like, I mean, to be fair, the cars were going very fast. I mean, she's just smacked, on some concrete. Maybe go back and check to make sure she's dead instead of just like, breaking down in front of everyone. Like,
Yeah.
because they just continue with their task of taking down the plane. Han never like doubles back, to make sure she's actually dead. Like, there's no chance she doesn't come back by number 11.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
say.
yeah. I know. And man, these films, they always have like they always have that they always have like simultaneously like a character twist, that is, sorry, specifically a villain twist, but also like a character death. Obviously with Letty in the fourth one. I can't believe they killed off Giselle here. I'm absolutely gutted. To be honest with you. And with that, the movie, I think we mentioned this, introduces Gina Carano as Riley, and there is a bit of a twist there. But it's
Mm.
always bizarre to me because like I think it's integral that like with a twist, I don't know. Do you think you necessarily have to have a good actor to make a twist work, or do you like or do you think you not that Gina Carano is a bad actor, but I wouldn't say she's on the level of like a I wouldn't per se she's on the level of like The Rock or someone like that. I don't think she's on that level. Obviously she's good enough to make a career from it, but what do you think? Like, do you think you have to have a good actor to make that work or not?
Yeah, like what is it with them just deciding at some point in the 2010s that because The Rock was a wrestler and he became an actor that they should just pursue that any professional fighter should just pursue a career in acting.
It's
Like
bizarre, isn't it?
I don't know where that connection is, that they think I'm talented in one thing, so I must be talented in the other. Because you sometimes see singers try to be actors or vice versa, and sometimes it works incredibly, and then sometimes falls flat, and they fall flat on their face. And I feel like that is probably the instance, at least within the Fast franchise, with the majority of fighters who attempt to be performers. But yes, I think to carry out a twist effectively, you do need a certain level of acting. I think luckily for Gina Carano, Luke Evans, makes up for that, and she only has sort of a handful of lines, and the twist part is, you know, I mean, so I suppose sometimes with like a fake out or a misdirect, having quite a flat performance can help because if they're intentionally trying to like drop
Emotionless. Yeah.
yeah, if they're trying to like drop seeds, that this person's maybe potentially nefarious, then that's one thing. But here, if they want it to be like a proper like just breakneck surprise, having a flat performance where you didn't really think anything about her, she was so unassuming, is
Mhm.
maybe
It's a good
what they
point.
wanted to go for. Regardless.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's maybe a bit of subtlety there to it. Um, yeah, it's a really good point because like when you think of Hollywood really going for these wrestlers and WWE and UFC fighters, like it's a bizarre sort of turn because I don't know, like everyone looks at The Rock and thinks he was the first person to do that, but like if you look back to like Hulk Hogan and you Stone Cold Steve Austin, those kind of wrestlers, like they were proper, Hulk Hogan specifically was like he was Rocky, that that was sort of, I'm not sure if that was the first, but like when I think of wrestlers to make it to the mainstream in terms of Hollywood, I think of Hulk Hogan first. And The Rock's certainly the most successful, I would say, and it looks like John Cena, obviously another future actor in this franchise. It looks like he's trying to carve the same path. I'm not sure. Like, do you see John Cena having a career equivalent to The Rock? Because he's probably a more famous wrestler, I would say, in terms of he's been in wrestling for longer. He's probably more recent, more relatively well known. Obviously, he's appeared in films like Bumblebee and Fast and Furious as well. What do you
The
think?
Fred trilogy.
Yeah, 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 as well. Yeah, I know as well. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
I think he seems like an incredibly likable guy, and I think that goes a long way. Because if you don't have to, because I think that when it comes to films, a nice guy, if they're a good enough actor, can pretend to be a bad guy, but
Hmm.
not vice versa. Like I think you don't find unlikable actors likable in films usually.
Agreed.
Like
Yeah.
do you find that to be the case? So
No.
so I think the fact that he's very likable will probably
Definitely.
help with his range in future films.
That sounds like a bit of a challenge in my head, mate, to kind of think of an actor who is unlikable but is likable in a film. Like you just don't think of one, do you? Like when you think of the other way around, like you think of sort of Chris Evans in Knives Out, like a really likable actor who you don't like in the film. Like, can you think of any actors the other way where it's like they're likable but sorry, they're unlikable but likable in the film?
I mean, Brie Larson, people aren't
Mm.
a huge fan of, but I really enjoyed her performance in Captain Marvel. Not so much in Endgame, but there are certain interviews where there's negative vibes, but that may just be anxiety, or I'm sure there's a certain amount of factors. I don't think she's ever rude.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be one of the closer examples where it's just she maybe doesn't come across as well. But, I don't think that's necessarily a
Yeah.
an indictment of her character.
Yeah. I think the big one
But
for
she
me,
comes across really well in Captain Marvel.
yeah, I think the obvious answer in my head is probably Kevin Spacey, but that's like a whole different kettle of fish where like I don't necessarily find him likable in any of the roles because like I can't
Yeah,
watch
he's
American.
never playing a nice guy.
Yeah, I can't say in American Beauty that like I find him likable or dislikable. I just kind of think nothing of it because like he is just like he just is what he is. Like he does some really bad things, but like by the end you kind of I don't know, you don't necessarily look past it, but you kind of understand certain things. And in Usual Suspects, he is the villain. Well, spoilers, I guess. But you've seen our crime
Yeah,
podcast.
Matthew. You're the only person in the world who somehow missed that. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
there's going to be plenty of films that we talk about over the years where there's some massive famous twist that Matthew's somehow oblivious to.
I don't
And
know how I've done it.
look out for those. But I mean, even small films, I somehow know the ending too, even though it's never like I'm seeking the answers out.
Mhm.
But there's huge films that for some reason you just don't know how they end.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've missed the boat on many of them apparently, which is good for viewing experience, I suppose.
That's
Back
true.
to yeah, back to Fast and Furious 6, I suppose. What's your overall sort of thoughts on how the movie develops a villain? Because it is quite different to your typical sort of drug cartel, and the fact that it is kind of it's very different. It's very different. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Luke Evans is probably the most notable actor of the villains so far. In the first film, there is no villain. If you're gonna say anyone's an antagonistic force, you could say either way. It's the fact that Brian's trying to take down the Toretto gang, whether the Toretto gang or the criminals. The second film, it's just standard drug guy. Third film, it's standard gangster yakuza guy. Fourth one, standard drug guy. Fifth one, uh, standard criminal guy. This one,
Yeah.
there's a bit of nuance.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm saying that maybe all his nuance is that he has an English accent. That may be it.
Yeah, maybe.
So I may be being generous to him there, but it is the first villain that I think made an impact. He had no plot though. In future films, they want to nuke the city, or they want to they want to get this virus out.
Yeah.
But here he just wants a weapon so he can get money. And I'm like, I mean, you have like the most elite bank robbing crew that you could ever conceivably have. Why do you need this component to then sell it on?
Yeah, I
If
agree.
he
I
needed it for
agree.
himself, to use for some kind of virtual terrorism or whatever, that would make sense to me. I mean, I wouldn't encourage it, but it would make
Yeah.
narrative sense to me.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I think he just wants to get rich, but
Yeah.
it didn't seem like he had any trouble, in
Yeah.
obtaining a tank, so I'm sure he can steal some gold.
Yeah, I think his motives didn't work as cohesively as other villains in the franchise, which seems a bit of a weird, a crazy thing to say, given that I've slated other villains. But I think, yeah, whenever he's on screen, although I think he's best performance wise, and he's certainly the most unique, I do feel like the scenes don't work cohesively. Like it feels like he's just jumping from scene to scene to scene without any clear direction there. And that's maybe why I think plot wise, the fifth one is potentially better than it. Although I prefer the sixth one, just because maybe that's my bias and nostalgia speaking. I think the fifth one works in terms of that there's a lot of different genres in there, whereas this one it is maybe a bit more cliche in that sense. And yeah, like I do think he just lacks direction overall. to be honest with you.
I mean,
Um,
to the credit of this film, everything seems, in my opinion, you said everything seems to be an improvement. I do still prefer the fifth one, but I think definitely they went very ambitious here. I think all the stunts and
oh yeah, definitely, mate.
all the acting performances, like it's all very ambitious, and they've dialed up the silliness. So that's commendable, at least within the context of what they're trying to achieve. But there's obviously this perception about the Fast and Furious franchise that it's, nonsensical, unintelligent, so switch off, brain switching off,
Yeah,
kind of thing. And I think you don't need to be intelligent to watch it. Obviously, and anyone can enjoy it. As you said, it's very accessible. But I don't think it's dumb. I think all the plots are very very cohesive. They make sense. They're just accessible.
yeah,
But I've always thought, people portray this image of them being, really ridiculous. These stunts where there's things that couldn't possibly happen. Physics defying stunts. And I thought in my head, like, we really haven't seen any of this up to this point, and we're on the sixth one out of eight. And then about 30 seconds after that, there was this stunt where Vin Diesel jumped across a massive like bridge chasm to then catch Letty like mid-air so she doesn't fall off the bridge.
yeah.
And then
They
I was like,
smashed into their car.
this is
Yeah.
what I was like, this is what people were talking about.
Yeah, and at that, I think I have to credit this film with having probably the most iconic action set piece up until this point, with sort of like the runway scene. I think that's a really, even though it goes on for way too long, and you can think, oh, how long's the runway? It's ridiculous. Like, that's been overdone. I think those criticisms, because like that's the first thing everyone says about this one, which is fair enough. Like that whoever wrote that scene probably didn't think it through correctly. But that being said, I think as an action set piece, it does work. Um, it's certainly enthralling, it's entertaining, and it goes to show you, like, from film to film to film, the stunts get bigger, the stakes get bigger, and I think that's a good evolution. It makes no sense, like, if you just go downhill with that kind of thing. And that's kind of a worry for me with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they peaked a little bit too early with Endgame. Like, you can't really go above Endgame in terms of stakes, really, for me, when half the universe is wiped out. Like, you can never really bring that back again, for me personally. So I'm glad they're kind of escalating that slowly but surely, and I think that scene was a perfect sort of a cap off in this journey so far. Out of the six films that I've seen, I think it was a really good action set piece.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked a lot about Gina Carano, and the fact that her character is revealed to be secretly working with Owen Shaw.
Yeah,
And it was very obvious from dialogue that there was a rat amongst them. Because Owen Shaw says, how do you think I know what you guys are doing? It's because I have someone close to you. He heavily implies that that there's someone amongst the organization.
yeah,
And it was obvious that there was a rat. And it was, I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, who amongst the crew could it be? And I was thinking it can't be anyone amongst Dom's crew that we've seen in previous films. But like, she just never crossed my mind.
yeah.
I don't know why. I was genuine. I was thinking through all the options, and she just did not come to mind. I think maybe because her and Hobbs seem a bit more disconnected from the
Yeah, they do.
situation. With
Yeah.
Dom. But I have no excuse. Like, did you see it coming?
Not really, mate, to be honest with you. I think that's a credit to them. That a credit to you. That's what you want to you want to have twists that you don't see coming. And I think you're right. The fact that her and Hobbs are so excluded from the group in terms of they're not the core gang really. It maybe helps that. I thought. I thought they were going to do something crazy where it was going to be sort of Tej or someone like that, or Han, or Giselle even. I think Giselle was maybe the obvious choice for me, but they didn't go down that route. But yeah, no, fair play. Like, I didn't really expect it myself, and I think as a twist, it was. I think it was better than the Braga one, mate. To be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. Because this wasn't just a misdirect. It was an actual twist. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
was impressed.
Yeah,
This film ends with Han going to Tokyo. As we'd seen him in Tokyo Drift. Now recontextualized as him, moving away out of grief. After Giselle's death. We revisit his death, and it's discovered, in the post-credit scene that it was actually Deckard Shaw, Owen Shaw's brother who was responsible. And I have a few thoughts on this. Usually the trope of the relative out for revenge, is a character that like pales in comparison to the original. But with the Shaws, it's actually the opposite. The one that really made a cultural impact, on the
Yeah,
franchise and
exactly.
people's memory. People don't remember. I had no idea Luke Evans was his own villain of the whole film.
Hmm.
I thought he was just sort of the underling to Jason Statham. So he's the one that's made the real impact. And like that must be a bit deflating for Luke Evans, who's
Yeah.
originated this character, and now his brother, goes on and he's
Statham
he's
stole his
the one that
thunder.
people remember.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it goes to show you like how, like I don't think Statham's particularly a lot better than Luke Evans. Yeah, I think they're both on that kind of level, same level. But I don't know. There's something about Jason Statham in that role I think is absolutely perfect. And yeah, you'd be a bit annoyed if you were Luke Evans. You kind of think, oh, or you kind of think, oh no, he stole my thunder here. And it's not something you necessarily expect. It's kind of like if somehow Sebastian Stan became more popular than Chris Evans as Captain America, or Anthony Mackie, for that matter. Like it would be weird if that happened. So yeah, no, it's bizarre, and it's funny. I didn't really make the connection to like, oh, the Shaw surname from Hobbs and Shaw. Like I stupidly didn't make that connection, just silly of me. But yeah, it worked well, it worked nicely, mate. Anything other from you, say, mate?
Well, I also don't know why, why Shaw's instinct on, if I really want to hurt Dom, this is the person I have to kill. Like it's not Brian, it's not Mia, it's Han.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
it's bizarre.
it was clearly a case of them trying to, retroactively come up with a reason, for why Han died. Because he's just randomly killed by, someone in a very unfashionable car at the end of, or in the middle of a Tokyo Drift. So I mean, they were trying to just clearly come up with, a reason why someone would want him dead. But the reason they came up with doesn't really work 100% for me. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna quickly have to move because my
that's
battery's
okay.
dying on my phone.
You're okay, mate. You're okay. So, mate, if you were gonna give the Fast and Furious 6 a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
I was really surprised by it. Well, I mean, I suppose not. Up to this point, I've enjoyed, to a certain degree, every film within the franchise. But I was surprised by the heights of number five, and then this one, I think is really close to meeting that standard. So, I think we're probably going to have reverse scores for five and six. But I agree. This is a really great film. I just don't think. Uh, I think the heist manhunt combination within number five versus this more spy oriented direction, which they continue in future films, is maybe not my preference in comparison to number five. But I'd still give it a strong 8.5.
8.5. Yeah, I think that's a fair rating, mate. I think for me, this film is it's certainly the one I have most nostalgia for, obviously. So definitely there's going to be an element of bias there. I think there's a good wee twist in there, of course. The action scenes are the best they've ever been. I think the film looks especially nice. We've got like nice variety in settings there as well, and it's nice for the cast to be outside of the States for the first time, I think, in a while. Apart from obviously Rio de Janeiro as well, the previous film. So it's nice. I think this film is refreshing. It feels different, and I think for me, it probably caps off at, yeah, probably an 8 or an 8.5, mate. But yeah, I think overall these three films are an improvement on the previous three. Not that the previous three were bad by any stretch, but I think this franchise certainly surprised me. There's been no real stinkers for me thus far. I think, at minimum, at minimum they've been good. At minimum they've been serviceable. So I'm looking forward to really getting stuck in with the next three, namely seven, eight, and when is nine releasing? Is it in the next month or two?
It's actually releasing sooner than I thought. It's coming out, I believe, uh, next week.
Next week.
Next week? Yeah, I think so because I organized. Oh no, not now. The week after next. I think it's the. I don't know. I think it's sometime soon. It's in
Sometime
June
soon.
though.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, mate. I don't know if will we do that in will we review Fast 9 as its own mini review, or will we include that in the podcast for part 3 of the series? What were you thinking?
Either works for me. You know, the current plan I had down was for uh part three, and then number nine is a separate one. But you know, either works perfectly fine for me.
Yeah. Well, as I say, mate, really good slate of films today, and I'll pass over to you for a bit of future episode chat because we're starting our first kind of director series, I suppose, in the channel. So what are we going to be talking about there, mate?
If I could ask one question to you quickly, you know, you said number six was your favorite of the franchise so far,
Hmm.
but you know, it got eight and a half. What do you think's missing for you? Do you think this franchise maybe just isn't, you know, the ideal setup for you to find a perfect film amongst it?
It's so hard to put a nail on the head there, mate, because I think the cast is spot on. I don't know what it is. One film that really intrigues me is Fast 8 because I think the marketing of that film, if I can remember correctly, it is Dom Toretto going rogue. So I think for me, something like that where it just flips the whole sort of thing on its head and really starts something fresh, something interesting. It's really it would probably be quite compelling, I feel. So I feel something like that where it's like a main character kind of going rogue. And although that did happen with Letty, mind you, I just feel like with Dom, it's kind of they're his films, you know what I mean? So I kind of feel like that film could be the one maybe where it flips it on its head. For me. What about yourself, mate? Is there anything missing from these films that you'd like? Because you've watched them all now, like what's your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think number five is the best we're ever gonna get. You know, I've never been a car guy. I never expected to like films about cars.
Mhm.
You know, all the stunts and ridiculousness wouldn't normally appeal to me. You know, I probably do normally prefer I don't know, not necessarily. You know, my favorite kind of films are, you know, sci-fi and rom-coms. So I mean, in theory, you know, a silly action film wouldn't appeal to me. But you know, there's just some special sauce amongst these films. You know,
There's a
there's just
special
something
quality.
that I can't identify, but it appeals to me. So, you know, I don't think a Fast and Furious film can ever be a perfect film. I don't think that it could quite be the perfect film even for me, let alone, you know, perfect you know, in practice. Uh so I don't think it can quite get there, and I think the closest it's gonna get is Fast Five for me.
Yeah, I do think these films get a hard time. Like a lot of people sort of write them off as dumb, sort of turn your brain off films, as you said. And I don't think that's fair. I think that's a disservice to them because they do have a lot of strong emotional pulls in there. Like they're a film. It's a film about a family. Do you know what I mean? Like it's got, especially you mean Fast and Furious 7. I suppose is going to be indicative of that. But I mean, yeah, I think these films get a hard time, and I'm glad that I've found enjoyment in them because there are things to be enjoyed there. I think there's quality there for sure. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, mate, what I had said there beforehand about our first sort of director sort of
Yes.
series in the podcast. What's that going to be about for the viewers?
Well, there's a lot of directors that I'd love to cover, you know, sometime soon. You know, Danny Boyle, you know, Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick. You know, those are some of the really big ones. The Coen brothers. You know, those are ones that I think are going to
Yeah.
spawn, you know, really extended multi-part series. And you know, this was one that I had in the on the list in the tank. You know, one that I thought would be a good idea, and one which friend of the podcast, Cash, had messaged me about, which is Tarantino. He wanted to see us talk about Inglorious Bastards because he said, I believe, in his opinion, it did not live up to the hype. We'll not be getting to that when we cover those next week. You know, we'll be talking about his first three films, which are Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and Jackie Brown. So we won't quite get to Inglorious Bastards just yet. But this is one I'm not excited about because I know they're very long and I don't think his style appeals to me. But I'm going in with an open mind.
Yeah, and I think there that the first one, Pulp Fiction, is probably the most famous film of all time, or certainly one of them. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into that one specifically out of the three. But yeah, it's gonna be an exciting series for sure. But um, but yeah, thank you very much for today, mate. Appreciate your
Thank you.
time, and thank you very much for everyone who's supported us recently. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts in the Fast and Furious movies down below. We'll always be there replying to your comments, and of course, like I said, our email and stuff and our podcast download link is in the description too. So yeah, hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends all safe and well too. Take care, everyone, and bye bye.
Bye bye.